Story about a giant. This is a Scottish story. A little bit scary. Come on, sometimes it's good to be scared of stories. The story about a giant. His name's Thrum. It was a very, very, very long time ago, when the Great Sea, which divides northern Scotland and the Scottish Islands from Norway, was shallower than it is now, because even giants can't wade over the sea, but they could then. There was a time when all the giants in Norway decided that they would make a real effort to get on with the humans. They felt a bit sorry for these puny, these tiny little beings. And so they thought they'd leave the humans alone. And so the giants lived, by and large, in the mountains, keeping well away from the people. And they stopped eating people. But there's always one. There's a giant called Thrum, and he just liked the taste of human beings. They were just so juicy and so lovely and so scrumptious. And he just couldn't give up eating people. And it was the thing that he liked most, was to leave the mountains and go down and find a village. And the people in the village would hear great footsteps walking towards them, and they would hear a deep voice saying, "I will find you. I will catch you. I will eat you." But the other giants had a meeting and decided that it was really best if Thrum left, because it wasn't good for giant human relations to have this one difficult giant still eating people. So they sent Thrum away, and he waded over the sea, and he waded to the islands north of Scotland, which of course were created from the teeth of the stallworm, but that is another story. So Thrum waded over to the islands, and up on those Scottish islands, archaeologists still find human skulls which have been severed from their bodies, and they still deny the existence of giants. But Thrum would find a village, and the people would hear his footsteps, and the people would hear his voice saying, you can join in with this bit, come on. What did he say? I will find you. I will catch you, and I will eat you. So, people of one village loaded everything they possibly could onto their carts, and they travelled to the next village, and they said, "There's a giant coming." And the people of the second village were very tough, very bright, very clever, and we know how to deal with giants. So they dug a pit, they dug a trench, and at the bottom of the trench they put upright, sharpened stakes. Yeah. And in front of the trench, in front of the pit, they put a tripwire. And when they heard Thrum coming, and they heard him, and they heard his great big footsteps, and they heard his voice saying, I will find you. I will catch you. they set the children of the village to stand behind the pit. Giants don't see very well, they're quite short-sighted. Stood behind the pit, and they shouted and they called and they said, "We're over here, we're over here. You won't catch us, you won't find us." So Thrum lumbered up to the pit, tripped over the rope, fell into the pit, and fell onto the sharpened spikes, and there he was. So the people of the two villages, thinking, that's the end of Thrum, that's the end of the giant, decided to have a party. And they got together all the beer and all the mead and all the food that they could, and they made music and they danced and they generally had a good time. And they danced all night, and the sun was just starting to rise when they walked back to the houses, and they walked past the pit, and there, in the bottom of the pit, was Thrum's left foot running around, and Thrum's right foot running around, and Thrum's left hand running around, and Thrum's right hand running around. And the people of the village were quite worried that the feet and the hands might actually manage to climb up out of the pit. So they threw in lots of firewood and threw in a blazing branch which made a fire. And so the fire burned, and the fire burned, and the fire burned. So that night, people got together the rest of their mead and the rest of their beer and the rest of their food, and the musicians brought their instruments and they played, and everyone sang and everyone danced and had a great time. Yeah. But as the sun was starting to rise, the dawn was starting to break, people walked home past the pit. And from the fire where Thrum's body had been burned, not so little specks of ash began to rise, little black specks of ash. And the people of the villages could hear this very, very high-pitched voice. And each of the little specks of ash was starting to say, "I will find you. I will catch you. I will eat you." And if ever you go out to Scotland, if ever you go to the Highlands, and do go because it's wonderful, you'll find all sorts of things, but you will find the descendants of those little black specks. And those descendants, and if you go at the right time of the year, you'll find those just Thrum's descendants, these little black specks. And trust me, they will find you. They will catch you. And they will eat you. But do go to Scotland despite the midges, because it is wonderful. More giant stories coming up. What giants represent? I think maybe they represent what we're most afraid of. But anyway, do subscribe to my channel, and do watch some other videos and learn some stories and tell them yourselves and have fun out there. I hope to see you again soon.